Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Rogue Macro. Quick video here. Just wanted to react to this post by James E. Thorne. One of the things I talk about on all of my content is the moving into a new paradigm, a new world order. And I've been talking about this for a very long time. When Zero Hedge just started, I think it started up in like 2006. My handle on there was the future reset. And I've been talking about this whole paradigm shift going back all the way till then. Of course, it has evolved a little bit and has been updated, but I've been talking about deglobalization for a very long time. And it wasn't till COVID came around that people really picked up on this, and it's started to now become more mainstream, that people see it and believe that we're going through this change, this fourth turning, maybe you could call it, but this change in world order, and deglobalization is a big part of it. So we're living through history right now. Of course, all the stuff with Trump and Iran that has gone on over the last 4 or 5 weeks, and even the last 24 hours have been really big. And this tweet right here, I think, sums up a lot of people's short sightedness on this topic. So I wanted to read through it. All right, let's dive in. So James Thorne says, food for thought: Trump, Hormuz, and the end of the free ride. For a half century, Western strategists have shown that the Strait of Hormuz is the acute point where energy, sea power, and political will intersect. That knowledge is not in dispute. What is new in this war with Iran is the United States under Donald Trump has chosen not to rush to solve the problem. A lot of people say, "Oh, what's the plan? What's the plan?" There has been a plan. There has been a plan. Trust me. There's a military plan that goes back 40 years. I'm well aware of that military plan. Not all the details, but on a need to know basis when I was in top secret clearance in the military. So there has been a plan, a workable military plan to get the strait open. But do we really need to do that? What was Trump's plan? A lot of people interpret his actions as wild and incoherent, but they're very, very targeted. And James Thorne puts his thumb right on it on this post. In Hegelian terms, he is refusing an easy synthesis in order to force the underlying contradiction to the surface. The old thesis was simple: the US guarantees open sea lanes in the Gulf, and everyone else structures their economies and politics around that free insurance. Of course, it's not just the Strait of Hormuz, it's also multiple sea lanes everywhere around the world: South China Sea, Straits of Malacca, the Atlantic, the Indian Ocean. Everything, free trade and free navigation, has been subsidized, has been enabled by this free insurance from the United States. Europe and the UK embraced ambitious green policies, ran down hard power capabilities, and lectured Washington on multilateral virtue, secure in the assumption that American carriers would always appear off Hormuz. The political class behaved as if the American security guarantee were a law of nature, not a contingent choice. Their conduct today is closer to Chamberlain than Churchill, temporizing, issuing statements, hoping the storm will pass without a fundamental reordering of their responsibilities. Trump's antithesis is to withhold the automatic guarantee at the moment of maximum stress. Militarily, the US can break Iran's residual ability to contest the strait. That is not the binding constraint. The US can open the strait. The strait is not physically closed. There's been a lot of back and forth. Some people, even out there, are making fun of others, like myself. They're saying that it's technically not closed. There's no physical door, there's no physical mines in the water that's closing the strait. It's just an open threat. And a lot of these threats, are based on very minute attacks. There really hasn't been a major attack since March 11th. There have been some minor attacks since then, but there is no physical closing of the strait. And all the U.S. would have to do is escort these people, put a chain of naval destroyers and ships there in the strait to protect these people, and they could just open it that way. But that is not what they want to do. That is not the plan. The point is to delay the act, by allowing a closure or semi closure to bite. I like that he put semi closure in here. Trump ensures that the immediate pain is concentrated in exactly the jurisdictions that have most conspicuously free ridden on US power: the EU and the UK. Their industries, consumers, and energy transition assumptions are exposed. Yeah, and I love it. I love it. In that context, his reported blunt message to European and British leaders, "You need the oil out of the strait more than we do. Why don't you go and take it?" is not a throwaway line. It is the verbalization of the antithesis. That is the plan. It openly reverses the traditional presumption that America will carry the burden while its allies emote from the sidelines. In this dialectic, the prize is not simply the reopening of a choke point. The prize is a reordered system in which the United States effectively arbitrages the control and global flow of oil. A world in which US aligned production in the Americas, plus a discretionary capability to secure or not secure Hormuz, places Washington at the center of the hydrocarbon chessboard. For that strategic end, the rapid restoration of the old status quo would be counterproductive. Wow. Just a banger of a line. The rapid restoration of the old status quo would be counterproductive. A quick surgical fix of Hormuz would short circuit the dialectic. If Trump rapidly crushed Iran's remaining coastal capabilities, swept the mines, and escorted tankers back through the strait, Europe and the UK would heave a sigh of relief and return to business as usual. Yeah, they wouldn't learn a lesson. Underfunded militaries, maximalist green posturing, and performative disdain for US power, all underwritten by that same power. The contradiction between their dependence and their posture would remain latent. By declining to supply the synthesis on demand, and by explicitly telling London and Brussels to go and take it themselves, Trump forces a reckoning. European and British leaders must confront the fact that their energy systems, their industrial bases, and their geopolitical sermons all rest on an American hard power foundation they neither finance nor politically respect. And they've been doing it for decades. I've said this time and time again. The US system, the US has subsidized the rise of Europe, the German miracle after World War II, the Japanese miracle, the Chinese miracle. The US has funded basically the rise of the global economy, all based on American hard power foundation, and done it relatively benevolently. The Pax Americana. Yes, there have been proxy wars, but look at the rate of poverty decline under the United States. Yes, it started under the British Empire through the early 20th century, but since that second half of the 20th century, global populations have exploded at the same time that poverty has collapsed. This has been built off the American hard power foundation, the subsidy of the United States for the global system, and Trump is now explicitly retracting that subsidy. The longer the contradiction is allowed to unfold, the stronger the eventual synthesis can be. A new order in which access to secure flows, Hormuz, Venezuela, and beyond is explicitly conditional on real contributions, not assumed as a right. In that sense, the delay of taking the strait and the challenge issued to US allies to do it themselves is not indecision. It's not no plan. It is the plan. It is the negative moment Hegel insisted was necessary for history to move. Only by withholding the old guarantee, and by saying so out loud to those who depended on it, can Trump hope to end the free ride. I'm not too much in agreement with this Hegel stuff, but I understand what he's saying, and I think that it is well taken. Here's just an image of the strait. All right, guys, make sure you're following James Thorne, Dr. J Strategy, also myself, Rogue Macro _. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all on the next one. Bye.